In a world that's constantly moving, constantly demanding, how often do we actually pause and check in with ourselves? Today on Let's Talk, we are exploring a question that feels simple but is deeply complex. Can inner peace really exist in high pressure in today's real world environments? We have two incredible guests joining us today who live at the intersection of stress and stillness. Pranava Patil, an NHS anesthetist working in life and death situations, and a teacher with the art of living. Helen Turner, a mediator who has worked closely with whistleblowers in the NHS and has spent nearly 2 decades practicing and teaching breathwork and meditation. Together, they bring two different perspectives but a shared belief that change begins within. Today, let's go beyond the surface and really talk about what it takes to stay grounded when life doesn't slow down.
Good morning, Helen. Good morning, Pranava. Welcome on this beautiful summer morning. Just to start with, the session that was on breathwork last week, which was a tester session, was amazing and I really enjoyed. So I want to start with asking you both, when was the time when you both felt really overwhelmed? And at that moment, did you both feel that something like breath work or meditation is a solution for overwhelming situations?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, the question is, it made me think at what point, but I can precisely remember the moment actually. This was about 10 years ago. Um, I was a little sad that my daughter was leaving home. She was going to uni. And I think most parents can connect or relate to this. And it felt quite upsetting. It was very emotional period for me. And this was the time when a friend of mine, she said, why don't you try this workshop? This was then called as the happiness program. And I said, that's not for me. You know, I didn't think that that was going to really help me. But she said to me, why don't you even try it? So I thought, okay, let me just try it. I didn't have a clue. And I have a logical mind, like because I'm a doctor by profession, I need evidence for everything. And these things didn't have much evidence, this breath work and things like that. In our hospital, there was a well, how to deal with stress kind of a workshop arranged by some of the by managers, and I attended that. And they in that workshop they did some sort of a breathing exercise with us, and they had attached monitors to this person to show us the difference of how they had stressed this person before. They asked them some questions, put them in a fix in front of the whole audience, and then you could see their heart rate going up, their breathing going fast, erratic breathing. You could see that. And then what they made us all do this exercise where they asked us to close our eyes, take some deep breaths. They made some, and then slowly we could see that his heart rate, his respiration came back to normal. And then he asked him the same questions. And the questions that then he answered did not give the same response, physiological response. The breath, the heart rate, all of that was quite steady after the breath work. And that really got me thinking that actually there is science behind this. And so I attended this happiness program, and that was life changing. That was life changing. before and after Pranava was very different.
That's a very good example.
Yeah.
What about you, Helen?
I mean, there's been many situations where I felt very overwhelmed. And you know what? I've been doing this for 18 years. And actually, I think back to possibly about a month ago, I've recently come out of full-time work and now self-employed. And a month ago, I felt really overwhelmed by it. And the thing is, even though you do these practices, your overwhelmness does come down. But nevertheless, there are still times that you do feel overwhelmed in life. Life doesn't stop happening.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I could feel myself really spiraling. Have I done the right thing? you know, and actually, and then within sort of 24 hours, by making sure my practice was really, really solid, I'd come back to center again.
Yeah. So I think it's just matter of, being in that practice, I guess. It's not that once you do and then you're just set. I think it's just having that into your daily practice.
Yes, it is. It is. And as Pranava said, there's life before and then there's life after. And I can certainly relate to that. There was, yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
This is for you, Pranava. You are an anesthetist, so I can imagine your job is quite high pressure and you're always in that life and death kind of situation or environment. So, how does stress play out for you when you're, actually in a operation theater, and dealing with that situation? How do you deal?
So, as doctors, we are very well trained to deal with clinical situations. When it comes to patients, usually those situations come as a drill, you know. So we are trained over and over again for those kind of situations. So those situations, I would say, dealing with the patient and complications of whatever in theater, don't really put that much stress. What brings on the stress is things that we were not taught in medical school, because everything is digitalized now. Like digitized. It has taken over everything, and those were the things not taught to us. And I became a doctor in an era where there were no computers, right? So, or even cell phones for that matter. So, and in the last few years, uh, this has, computers and have taken over the world, AI coming in now. So that is one. And the second thing is, nobody teaches you time management. As you know, nobody teaches you that. So there are too many things to be done in too less a time. So those are the two things that really, if you can say stress, those are the things that stress me out rather than actual clinical work. So and to deal with that, um, as I said, the practices come because you learn to prioritize, you learn to um, do jobs efficiently. You think that doing these practices takes away your time, but actually, these practices like of breath and meditation, having that little discipline, actually adds on time to your day, because everybody is gifted with 24 hours a day. But how you use that time is very important, or how you use it efficiently. And I think that changed for me, because as a mother of two, as a full-time clinician, and running running pillar to post for, you are a glorified taxi driver, right?
Yeah.
As a mother, you're taking them everywhere. And although those days are behind me now because my children have grown up, but I've been there and done that. And actually, doing these practices was very, very helpful for me to deal with those things. Yeah.
This is for you, Helen. You've also been working with NHS, and you've been a whistleblower, and I think you've had to deal with constantly high pressure emotional situations. So what is your observations on, how people behave when they are overwhelmed, or when they are in a very emotionally stressful situation? So what kind of behaviors have you seen, and what did you take from it?
So to be clear, I wasn't a whistleblower. I worked with people who were whistleblowers. And that's what I did for the last 10 years. So there's obviously a distinction there.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is quite interesting. So for the most part, when we are feeling the pressure, for the most part, we see what we tend to term our negative tendencies. So you can see, the victimization, you can see people's, the lack of compassion, you can see irritation, the anger, all these things come up. Now, having said that, I've also seen people who've been in really high pressure situations, but have got the tools to be able to handle it. And nevertheless, they still um, they still are able to behave in those really in the ways that let me rephrase that again. They still behave in ways that we consider positive, or or things that we respect. So the dignity is still there, the compassion is still there, the um the self-awareness, and I'll come back to self-awareness a little bit later on. But what there is there is an awareness of how to behave within these situations. And unfortunately, we are not told how to deal with high pressure, nor are we given the tools to do it. We go to school about
Yeah.
for everything else, but how to handle our own mind and our emotions, because there will be high pressure. That's life. But how we deal with it is very different person to person.
Yeah, I agree. We are never taught how to deal with pressure at all. And, I think just because we are not aware of it and don't have the tools, I think people just feel frozen, or they don't know how to react. I think most of the times that's what you think.
I agree, and what I see is you tend to blame the external. That's huge. When actually, sure, I'm not saying there aren't things going on, but actually, if you have some self-awareness,
Yeah.
then you are aware of your inner state, and how you react to it is very different. So you can respond rather than react, and they're two very different things.
So in this situation, what do you think people get wrong? What is the mindset, or what is that they feel in this highly emotional situation?
So I think we need to come away from wrong and right. If I'm really honest, it just
Okay.
is. And if you haven't been taught, then you haven't been taught. And if you haven't got the awareness, you haven't got the awareness. So if we could change one thing so that people are able to deal with stress better, high pressure situations, conflict, because remember, conflict is a very natural part of being human. And actually, conflict is a driver for positive change, or can be. So for me, it's inculcating that self-awareness. And the more self-aware you become, that's when you can begin to change your behavior. That's when you can be able to handle stress better. That's when you can be able to, your relationships develop, you can deal with the pressure better.
So this question is to both of you. Do you think breath work and meditation, these tools, can help people in a very high pressure situations?
Y- yes, yes, definitely. I mean, uh, adding on to what Helen has already just said, that she deals with these kind of situations quite a lot, and I do as well. Um, During COVID, okay, as being an anesthetist, I was working throughout the whole period of COVID, and it was a very stressful situation. We were wearing PPE all the time. It was not easy, I must say that. But because I was doing the breath work, because I was doing the meditation every day. In fact, I was doing more in that time because it just helped me keep focused and centered. And I think breath work and meditation, what it does is, as Helen was saying about the awareness, it brings you that awareness. You are in the moment and you are in the awareness. And this takes practice, obviously. You can't let go of it. You will, at points, you will. But the more you practice it, the more in awareness you are, the more in awareness you are that your feelings are spiraling, the more in awareness you are that you are reacting to a situation and not responding. So, yes, definitely, this breath work and meditation absolutely helps you become aware of yourself and your mind. Yeah.
You want to add anything to it, Helen?
Oh, I agree. You know what? I honestly do not know where I would be without it. I really don't. I dread to think, if I'm honest. It is that powerful and can be that life-changing. And we are not here to sort of say life is perfect. It isn't, because that is the very nature of life. Life looks very difficult, and it is such a fantastic tool. It's, yeah, life transforming.
This again question is to you both. Can you give an example of a situation where you both have dealt um, with someone being in that situation and you have given them the tools, and how that has helped them actually to come out of that situation because of using the tools? If you both could give one example that you have dealt with.
So, we do these courses regularly. Okay. So, we both teach or we share what we have learned over the years um, on these courses. And we see a lot of people come into these courses. Obviously, some people carry on because they found the benefits of it. And because of the practices that they've been doing regularly, they find that this benefits them quite a lot. Um, but we have also seen people who come on the courses and they feel great after the course, but then life takes over and they don't prioritize doing these practices every day. And then you hit square one again. I mean, as long as you keep doing this and being aware of your um, breath, because that is the only thing that brings you into your present moment, right? Because breath is the work that you do every day, every single time, every single moment. And that helps you bring you into the moment. So I cannot give one example, but there are myriad of examples actually who have come through this, including me, for that matter, including me. So, yeah, uh, that's what I'd like to say.
So I can think of someone who was going through a divorce. How that divorce came about was very unfortunate for them. However, you know, very shocking. But nevertheless, a couple of weeks they came out of it, and they just had the foresight and the fortitude and the strength to be able to move forward. If they didn't have these practices, I think we would have seen a very, very different outcome in terms of the spiraling. I can think of, again, I think of a couple um, who were, having, I won't necessarily say problems, but they were having a bit of a rocky patch in their marriage. Again, they did the course. They found such a depth from doing this, and they've been married for 40 years now. Still hold hands. Very, really very endearing. I think of families whose lives have been changed. I think of my own. I didn't have a relationship with my mother. I used to see her for an hour, and an hour on Christmas Day each year. That has completely changed. I've relaxed, so she's relaxed. You can see people who have had really always struggled with relationships. That kind of conflict. they have now, that there's something that is fundamentally changed inside, so that they're able to have better relationship with people. Again, that as I talked about, that inculcating that self-awareness. So there are myriad, as Pranava said, examples of this, and I think talking about an outcome, not just a feeling, you know, because we obviously recognize that doing breathwork and meditation makes you feel better. But you know what? When you feel better, that's an outcome in itself. And not only is it an outcome in itself, because when you feel better, your divorce may still be going on. Your parents may still be really frail. Your job might be awful, but your perspective is very different. You come up with more creative solutions to whatever those issues are. You have that strength to be able to deal with it. You are more in the moment. Your head spirals less. So so that's really important to remember. You're just able to deal with life better. And it's not always perfect, believe you me. When I say it's not always perfect, we don't always deal with it perfectly. I'll put my hand right up to that, but you learn from it. And you would certainly, if you look back on how you would have dealt with that a few years ago, you think, actually, and things that would have pushed your buttons, and actually that button just isn't there anymore.
Do you think because of these practices, it helps a person to change his thought process, and then that leads to how we deal with things?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because um, when you when you do these techniques, and when you actually, what I would let me put it this way, that you can learn to drive. You can't learn to drive by just looking at YouTube videos or reading a manual. Yeah. You need an instructor to take you through the different roads, to show you exactly how the maneuvers are done and what's the right way of doing it, right? Even in
True.
the gym, you don't, yeah, you can do exercises yourself. But when you do it correctly, when somebody shows you how to do them correctly, then you avoid injuries, then you avoid overdoing things, right? It's the same with this breathwork and meditation. There are loads of things available these days, and they are your fingertip away, right? But what is good for you, what suits you better, is what you need to understand. And how it can help you is very important. So, having an instructor or a teacher or a what they say as a guru to teach you these techniques and to hold your hand while you're learning them, to navigate through these situations, it along with some wisdom, you know, some knowledge of these techniques and the knowledge to help you deal with these stressful situations every day is important.
Very true.
And it does not take the whole family to do it, because in my family, I did it.
Mm.
And it changed my dynamics with my husband, with my children. Even my children said it was very strange, because when I did my course the first time, and after a few months, I reacted or responded something different to my daughter than what she had expected. And she said to me, "Mom, you've changed." And that was the biggest, like, yay, yes, I've
That's
done
the
it, kind of.
that's the proof,
Yes,
I guess.
yes, yes, exactly. And it does change your perspective. And that is very important, that you understand that it's not just the breath work, not just the meditation, but it is the whole package that comes with it. So that's important.
Brilliant. This is for both of you. Between discipline, service, and inner peace, what comes first, structure or stillness?
Side by side. You can't, and this is, you know what, these, again, really interesting questions, because when you inculcate that self-awareness, when you do the breath work, when you do the meditation, you realize that things that may seem opposing actually can exist side by side. So with stillness, you get structure. With structure comes a stillness. Yeah. They have to be side by side.
So they're both linked to each
Absolutely.
other.
Absolutely.
One leads to the other.
One leads to the other. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, Pranava?
So, uh, yeah, I completely agree with what Helen said because I've tried it doing the other way around. I've tried it doing because when I turned 40, I changed my hairstyle to feel better. I went really short hair, changed my wardrobe to feel better. And then I realized it made me happy for a bit, but then I realized I need something more. So I then joined the gym to get to get me looking really good. And this started after 40. And it changed. But it was just the externals that I was changing, right? And although gym or exercise gave me a little bit of discipline, it did not give me that stillness because it didn't last for long. So when I did this, when I started doing the breath work, the meditation, it brought that stillness, but at the same time gave me a structure and gave me the discipline. So, absolutely, as Ray Helen put it, it needs to go side by side.
Good.
And because stillness gives you discipline, and discipline also gives you stillness.
So this is for you, Helen. In the moment of conflict at work or home, what is one breathing or awareness technique people can use immediately in the daily routine?
You just pause and breathe. You just take a deep breath. That's it. It's that simple. And
Yeah.
again, inculcating that self-awareness so you are going into conflict. You are going into battle. So the moment you can pause, just take that breath, something will change. Because the moment that you take that breath, you are dealing with your emotions because every emotion has a particular breathing pattern associated with it. So you take that breath and then it automatically starts working on your emotions. So it really is that simple.
Yeah, I think people just need to learn to pause. I think that awareness, like you've been saying about awareness a lot. So I think having that awareness that if having that feeling, I think it's so important to pause, which I think most of us don't do, and just try to freeze ourselves, and then nothing works really.
No, it's a discipline and it's learned. And you'll get it right sometimes and you'll get it wrong sometimes, and that's absolutely fine. But conflict isn't a bad thing either. I think that's really important, but it's how you handle the conflict.
This is for you, Pranava. Like for people who are in a environment like a 9 to 5 job, like doctors. I'm a filmmaker as well, so I know how the film sets are. Constant stress is going on, and like you're walking on your toes continuously. So in those situations, day-to-day life, what would you advise, and how should people deal in those high pressure situations?
I don't have anything further to add than what actually Helen said. It's just
Yeah,
that pause,
yeah,
you know. Uh, as you rightly said, Helen, that when you are actually going into a conflict, and this will happen all the time, conflict need not be always an argument. It can be something as simple as you're going to the hospital to give your blood and you're very anxious about it. But you've got to sometimes that fear takes over completely, isn't it? For many people, going to a hospital can be a very stressful thing. And I think uh, taking that pause and taking that breath and realizing that this is something that I have to do is important. And for people who are actually working in the hospital, um, I think with the kind of environment that NHS is in right now, everybody's feeling that pressure, feeling that stress of the work. And it be doctors, nurses, paramedics, who name them, and everybody's under pressure at the minute. Just realizing that everybody's going through the same thing and bring that civilized um, communication, uh, being nice to people, being aware that they are also under pressure, being compassionate with your colleagues. I think that brings a lot of morale up. You're not just there to, yes, you are there to deal and bring the best for the patients, but at the same time, you're there spending the most time of your day, and you're working, spending actually most time with your colleagues at work than you spend with your family. And being nice to them, being nice to yourself at that point is so important, you know? Lighting somebody else's candle is not going to dim your own light.
True.
So it's very important that you be compassionate at work.
So this question is to you both again. What's your experience been in work or in personal life? Are people open to talk about, these situations, discuss with the colleagues or people around them, and are open to any solutions or techniques that may be available?
Yes, they are. Yes, but you also have to, even in a work situation, you have to be mindful as well. You know, there's there's there is an element of um you've got to find your moment. You really have got to find your moment. So, and I think these are techniques for everyone, but actually they're not, so you've got to be respectful, but more and more and more. I mean, meditation, 10 and breath work 10 years ago was just, it was considered a kind of you were a bit mad and a bit strange if you did it, particularly within white British community. But everyone's doing it. It's just accepted now. And again, you see how you see how it's moved along. You couldn't say meditation; it had to be mindfulness. That was about 5 years ago. Now uh, everyone's much more comfortable with it. Meditation, you can just talk about meditation and it's absolutely fine. So yeah, I really think so. I think we're reaching a golden age. Plus, as well, everything else doesn't work. Well, everything else doesn't work. Let me rephrase that. We've tried so many things, but are we really happy? Are we really happy? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with, having a nice house or a nice car or a nice whatever it is, fill your boots. I want all those things. Fantastic. But if you think they are going to give you lasting happiness and you are going to feel really fulfilled and they're going to give you incredible inner peace, it's the wrong, you're not correct. I want to say that again. I think it's if you think that's going to give you lasting inner peace, then I would really, I'd question that.
Yeah, I think it's between the external and the internal factors and your inner peace. I think how you reach that
Yeah.
point of inner peace is important.
You have to have legs in both worlds, inner and outer. Can't do one without the other.
True. Creating a balance, I guess. What are your thoughts, Pranava?
More and more people are actually realizing that it is going to help them. As and more people say they want to do it. Okay, and They also say, I don't know, understand how you do it. How can you just sit in this? Because I've got this habit of meditating wherever I can sit. You know, I can also nowadays, it's become such a habit that even in a busy um, tea room in our hospital, I can sit and meditate. And people find it quite strange because they say, how can you do it? How does your mind just shut off like that? But it takes practice, it takes practice. And people do like what I do. They like the idea of what I do, but they don't always realize that is also what they can do. Everybody can do it. Anybody can do it, you know? And everyone has had this experience of going into this place where you have no thoughts. Everyone. Because when you sleep, when you're in deep sleep, that's where you have no thoughts, right?
Great.
When you're dreaming, that's a different state. But when you are, because you go through different cycles in your sleep as well. So everyone has got this experience, but they don't remember it. Okay. When you've had a good, refreshing sleep, how do you feel in the morning is exactly how you feel doing a 20-minute meditation when you've gone deep into your meditative state. Okay. And I think more everybody can taste this. And once you taste it, it's something that you want to do again and again and again till it becomes your habit.
Yeah. I think it's just getting into the practice. There are too much
That's right.
distractions, and nowadays a busy life, so much of social media distraction. I think it's just become matter of becoming disciplined and getting into that practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You just do it
Yeah.
day by day, day by day, and it will buy
Mm.
you time as well. It will buy time. And you notice how our heads just talk ourselves out of these things all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's discipline, we haven't got time. You've got time. Yeah. Most
Yeah.
of us have
You have
got
to
time.
just
We
make
plan
time
it
for
out.
it.
If someone said to you, you know what, you've got to do this, you've got to do half an hour meditation for the next 40 days, you can't miss it, you cannot miss it, immediately your mind starts to, oh God, I don't know if I can do that. But if I said to you, you have to do 40 days meditation every day for half an hour, and at the end of it, I'm going to give you £100,000. What happens? What happens to your mind? Your mind immediately says, I will make time for that, isn't it? So this time.
Wonderful. Would you both like to share a small technique that you both use into your day-to-day life, which people can do when they're on the go or just quickly to come out of that situation? Any small techniques would you like to share?
I think you just take a breath. You just take a breath.
Okay,
Yeah. We have intro talks and things like that where it's more appropriate to perhaps take you through a technique.
That's right. That's right. But taking that pause, taking to even if you just closed your eyes for a second and took a deep breath and just concentrated on your breath for a few minutes or a few seconds even, that that will help. That will really help. And if you wanted to really learn more techniques, I mean, the breathing is really not a secret at all. There is so much available everywhere. It is, and you're doing it all the time. It's just a matter of being aware of it.
wonderful. Quickly, just this is like a rapid fire questions. I'll just say some words and some sentences so you can choose and let me know how you feel about it. Okay? Are you ready?
Yeah.
So, these questions are to both of you, and one word to describe your mind before meditation.
Everywhere.
Busy. Depends.
One word to describe after meditation.
Relax.
Yeah. Calm, no thoughts, blank.
Okay, brilliant. If you have to choose between silence and music,
There's a time for each. There's a time for each.
There's no choice. Yeah, you can't choose.
Between discipline and flow.
Um, you can't get the flow without the discipline.
So they interconnected.
And you can't get the flow. Yeah. And you can't get the flow without the yeah.
They go hand in hand.
Hand
They
in hand.
do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Service or self care.
They're both the same.
Again, I mean,
Both. Yeah.
they're both the same. Exactly. They're both the same.
Do you know, can I just say something here? I
Great.
think this is really interesting. You know, we're always looking for absolutes in life. Is stillness better than music? Is music better than stillness? Should we be more disciplined? You know, what do you prefer, discipline or something else? There are no absolutes. And you know what? When you meditate and when you do breath work, you realize that more and more, and it is such a relief, I tell you. Your mind is always looking for the definitive answer. And life is not like that. And it will lead you down so many tracks where there are red herrings. And doing meditation and breath work, you know, you become in charge of your mind rather than your mind becoming in charge of you.
It's about being aware and being in the flow, using the techniques, understanding the techniques, being disciplined, having that practice. And just, I think it's about being in the flow is what I take from this today.
Just do the practices and see what happens. Just take it,
Yeah.
take it from there. Take it in your stride. It's an
Right.
experience.
Yeah. You have to experience it for yourself.
Absolutely.
How much,
Absolutely.
ever other people tell us, unless you go through that experience, you won't know what it is. Won't know the taste of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I wanted to know, do you have any upcoming sessions or programs that people can attend and get this experience?
Yes, we do what is called as a breath and meditation workshop, or it is called the part one course of Art of Living. We both are Art of Living teachers. And
Great.
Art of Living is an organization which is a volunteer based organization which deals or touches a lot of things about well being, inner peace, resilience. And this course helps you, is the first step to learn about breath and meditation. For people who have never done it before, this is the best way to start. And we have this course coming up in May, on the 8th, 9th, and 10th of May. It's a 9-hour course, 3 hours each day. And we hope to see a lot of people there, because the more you do it in a community, the more you do it with others, and it becomes a habit. When you are accountable and when you have to uh, when you're in a group, I think that works really well to start off.
Yeah.
So 8th, 9th, and 10th of May in Chester.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much, Helen and Pranava. It's been amazing to know about the work that you do, and hope our listeners can take something from this, learn to pause and be aware.
Thank you. It was lovely coming on this show. Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing I take away from today's conversation is inner peace is something we need to build even when life doesn't get easier, whether it's through discipline, breath, or simply becoming more aware of ourselves. Small shifts can create powerful changes. A big thank you to Pranava and Helen for sharing honestly their experiences and their insights with us. Thank you to our listeners for connecting with us on this episode. If this conversation resonated with you, take a moment today, even just a few minutes, to pause, breathe, and check in with yourself. This is Let's Talk, and I'm your host, Vaishali Patil, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.